Hello and welcome into the SorareData Show. I am Andrew Laird. You can find me as Lairdinho on Sorare. Happy Friday, everybody. Getting the weekend started. Let's go. Or at least some of you, others have plenty of work to do, and others could be watching on another time, another day. Could be Sunday, getting ready for the work week after that. I don't know. But anyway, it's Friday right now. Happy Friday, everybody. What are we talking about today? Don't play in a bubble. That's right. That's right. Just something I was thinking about while I was finishing lineups this morning. And by finishing lineups, I mean pretty much doing all of them. My lineup process was different this week, and I'm not sure I didn't blow it. I'll use the double negative. Thanks everyone for coming in. Stefan, Gully, and Bob Franklin on the podium. Congratulations to you three. Johnny, what's up? Surfula, who was here, let me see. 19 minutes early. Damn, thought I was early enough to make my first podium. Surf. Not even close. Sean Thorpe, what's up? Let's get it. That's right. Hatlingen, mentally preparing myself for my 3 Division 2 teams to get relegated now that they're about to become Division 1. That is not the spirit, Hatlingen. D1, let's go. Mikey Baston, what's up? It's cold outside. There's no sign of atmosphere. Dallin, I don't usually get to watch your live streams, but I'm off today due to it being my birthday. So I'm cracking open my first beer of the day while I sit back and enjoy your show. Thank you for doing that. Happy birthday. That's a fun one. Actually, maybe it's not fun. I don't know. Is it like it's Valentine's Day? Is that fun? Because it's like everybody's kind of celebrating, but they're not really celebrating you. And like, you're like, hey, let's all get together. And everyone's like, well, I kind of have to, take the misses out or something. I don't know. Anyway, Rob C, what's up? ZM Star, do you guys want the beta testers on specific features or just overall use of the newer version? Looks great, and I've been enjoying it. I'd say both. We want to hear everything about it. Peptetta, what's up? Sorare Soul in the house. Shaforkle. Rob C, if you don't enter singing ABBA like Quinny, I'll be disappointed, Laird. Yeah, that's... I was more of an Ace of Base guy than ABBA. But anyway, Scosmo, what's up? Jakob Miles 88S. I don't know that name. So thanks for coming in. Evo, what's up? Hoodwink, Asia's back, baby. That's right. There was nothing. So I'll get into that. Asia's back. I'm fired up. Mattia, what's up? Halligan, do people get days off on their birthdays? I think people just take them off. Maybe we should give people the day. Really, you should get the day after. Yeah, Mike, this head cold I've got is just not going away. Agent Cooper, there's something truly tranquil about watching your Friday streams, Laird. I think it's to do with it being right after the deadline. What will be, and I can relax and enjoy Sorare content. Yeah, so it's weird. I talk to Keith, Gator Guy 231, all the time, and he was saying he really likes the Friday shows, and I was like, well, I have like other shows during the week that are by myself, like and he's like, he hasn't totally said this, but it's not that he really likes the solo shows, it's that he really likes Fridays. And I think there is kind of that vibe to it of like, pencils down, all our work's done, we can't do anything else, and now it's just kind of like waiting for the inevitable DAs that we're going to get all weekend. And I don't know, maybe the vibe, maybe it's just a regular Friday thing that like we're just used to it. We're used to like this chill period. And I hope that like I love that there are other people that feel that way, because I kind of feel that way with this Friday show. And I used to have the music. I'd become addicted to this new intro music, but like the Friday one was kind of like this, how I described it, is kind of like a Caribbean island vibe to it. And it's just supposed to be like, yeah, let's like hang out a little bit. And realize my arms are moving a lot now. And I think it's because I keep watching these Sorare videos, and those guys just love to use their hands in these videos. Shout out to Dan. And yeah, I don't know. I think that's it. Mike said Keith likes the Friday shows as he knows he doesn't have to hear from you for another 3 days. I mean, I get that, but man, Keith, I can't go 3 days without talking to Keith anyway. So Halligan says the play is to go out the day before your birthday, so that people buy you drinks at midnight. Oh, okay. As if I could stay up till midnight. Um, Gator Guy was on the official Sorare video for MLS. Was something? Is that out? Did that video come out? Did I miss it? I know he did that with Harry, but I didn't actually see the video. Um, yeah, I don't know. Miles, I'm a longtime lurker. Love the streams there. Miles in the chat now, no longer a lurker. Let's go. Let's go. 20 minutes before your show. Oh man, I'll have to go watch that. How long is it? Let's go look. Let's go find it. We're not going to watch it together. But that would be kind of funny also. YouTube Sorare. You think that actually brings us to the Sorare channel? Is it on YouTube? The ultimate MLS guide. Oh man, I'm going to love this. Harry trades using his, wow, look, he put his surname in there. Wow. Erwan and Dan couldn't even put theirs in. Man, I love this. I'll watch this later. That's fun. That's fun. This has been out for 39 minutes and there's one like. Oh, there's two. I'll give them one too. 44 views. Did they tweet it or something? I don't know. But I love it. I love it. Mattia, what are your thoughts regarding U23 players? Isn't it the only stable market on Sorare at the moment? I don't know. Is it? Collins is a misdirect. He legally changes it to trades. Goose said Fridays hang out with the chat day. The off topic is key. So on Friday, we can discuss whatever comes up. Yeah. Like I agree with that. And that's kind of the point of the Friday show previously. It was like, hey, like, what did we do this week? And let's like talk about it. And now it's, I don't know. It just seems like that's just the vibe here. There was a question earlier. Where are we here? I don't know if this is Mucci or Musi. I would say Mucci because CI, like in Italian, is the chi. How much money have you spent or earned in Sorare? So that's it's actually a very easy question to answer. But I'll also show you something because all star members have access to this, but not many people keep theirs public. But if you go onto your gallery on SorareData and you go to manager stats, you can kind of see what I've done over the years. Now it says I've purchased $170,000 worth of cards, but like that's not, it's a weird note. Like I haven't deposited $170,000 on the site. And for people who are like, know how the site works, like if you buy a card for $10 and you sell it for $30 and then you buy a $30 card, it counts as $40 for total purchases when you've really only spent 10. But anyway, you can just go to my gallery and click on manager stats because I happen to keep this public. I don't know why, but you can see. But I think all in, I've deposited somewhere around like $10,000 or $11,000 on the site over the last 4 years. 4 years, yeah. And so that's what it is. And in terms of like how much I've won, like you can see on here. Actually, I didn't mean to do it here. I meant to do it here. Here on the new beta.sorare.com, and you can see all your rewards won. But basically, in the accounting section here, it claims that I've won about $25,000 in rewards, which I don't think is, maybe it's right. I don't know. $18,000 in thresholds, which is really funny. CM Starter said, "Is if realized P&L is not red, then you're playing the game wrong." So the realized P&L is basically this: purchases minus sales. And the reason why mine tend to be red is because I still have all my cards. But I actually think this gallery valuation is not remotely close. Like I wouldn't be surprised if my total card P&L was actually, it might be negative. I don't know. It's actually one thing that I was going to look through because what I don't think this, well, maybe it does count it. I don't know. The Sorare accounting is very difficult for so many reasons, most of which for me particularly is that I rely on trades a lot. and how those get accounted for in terms of, um, value of the card that you sold and like what was actually the value. And if it's a super rare, those are always really hard to value. But, um, but Mucci, it's kind of an unfair question for me because, um, like I have a full-time job at SorareData that's like Sorare related. Not to say like I should count that um as what I've won on Sorare, um but I don't know. Halligan said I think thresholds covers everything, but that's not podiums. That's correct. I don't think it's like fourth place. So fourth place counts as thresholds. Oh, does it? I didn't think that's what we did, to be honest. I thought that was sorry, that was the difference between total gaming yield and thresholds. The problem was, um, what I think we miss a lot on SorareData, and I'll show you kind of. Do we have this on the regular on the new? Let me double check this. Like a specific card. I'm trying to think of. Um, so like, oh, I'm sorry. So like this Franco Armani card. Actually, Franco Armani is a bad example because I didn't buy that card. So my Emmanuel Reynoso card is one of my um, winningest cards ever. And here, let's see, total yield 12,000, cards won valuation. So like I won like $9,000 like worth of cards. And I think the problem with how we do that is like it doesn't really matter. And it's won 3,220 in cash. But like card value when like I don't care about that, about the what the cards were worth when I won them. I really only care when I sold them. Like, what did I actually sell the card for? And that's actually something that I've been working on separately, just like tracking on my own. And I was going to do something else about this, but I might as well bring it up. I This week, I think it was earlier this week, I sold my Albert Rusnak super rare, which was the first super rare that I ever bought on the platform, and it that was like a really, I was gonna say special card, but that was an important card to me. It's my first super rare, and I remember when I bought it, it was like a big deal because I was going to play at the time, like All-Star Rare Pro, and I needed a super rare to do it, and I eventually bought, this Rusnak one, and just one of those things on So Rare. So, like, I bought it for $524. It was 0.15 ETH, and at the time there was no fiat on the platform. So like I spent 0.15 ETH on it, and I sold it for $120, $180, excuse me, and that came in cash, which I was bummed about. But so it's kind of like, oh, it looks like I took a loss on that card. And the way that we have previously been doing, kind of showing rewards on SorareData, is you go through and you can see basically like where you won a card, and then what it was, if there was any cash associated with it, what the value was then and what the value is now. But what we don't see here is how much I sold the card for. Like if I won a reward, and because like that's really the utility, the yield from it. So just like looking back now, granted, I made some absolutely horrific deals on some of these rewards because I've long just kind of like considered rewards as like free cards. It's just like I don't think of them um, as having a cost, really, which is probably not the right way to do it, but that's just the way that I've been doing it. And um, so like I won the Casper Shabilko, which came after I had bought one, which was kind of a bummer, but I just was like manually tracking it a little bit. And I eventually traded that card along with 0.170 ETH for a Tyler Miller, which is kind of embarrassing. Did the same thing with Georgi Mihailovic. But anyway, the point that I was trying to make originally is this Rusnak card cost me 0.185, and I won like a Gabriel Arias card that I sold for 0.62. Now, obviously, Rusnak wasn't the only card that I used to win that card, But in this stretch, like I had this like red hot stretch. Wait, and you can see how long ago it's been. It was literally game week 185, 186, and 188, and then 190. But I won well over an ETH of cards just in that span with lineups that had Rusnak in it. Wonder if I can pull up that specific one. No. Shout out to Yami who bought that card. And it was just like I was looking back and it kind of looks like I took a loss on Rusnak, but I actually won quite a bit. And like I used him in cap 240 all the time. And it's just like, I don't know, that showing what you've yielded from cards is kind of like what I think has been missing on the platform for a long time. And it's something that I'm becoming more and more interested in, particularly going back on cards. But it's really what we should be focusing on for in season. So anyway, so it's like I bought that card and won all this stuff, and it doesn't quite show exactly when you kind of like look at your yield. Like theoretically, it shows some, it's all included somewhere, but it's just not that clear. And that's sort of something that I've been working on for that. So that kind of answers the how much did you spend or something like that. Rob said, I think it's hard to judge with prices being so different to 3 years now. So it's they're not like comparable, but it's the same, like it should be the same mindset. Like the idea is like, what did you yield from your cards? Now, granted, like, so going back to this spreadsheet. So this Carlos Vela, I won game week 190. I think I finished first in Champ America Rare Pro, if I remember correctly, 190. Let's see. I did win it. And I won $823. I don't know if it was actually 823. I forget well, again, it was just an ETH. But there's the Tyler Miller. That actually makes me feel so much better. I actually never looked to see what I won with this Tyler Miller. Did I sell that to Sorare Viking? I did. How about that? Vela, Graham Zuzi. Wow. So actually that Tyler Miller trade. So the Shabilko, I spent 0.17 for that Tyler Miller. Huh. See, and then the whole like lines of where everything's going, it does a lot. But anyway, Tyler Miller, Bakai Dabasi, Super Rare, which I still own. There's the Reynoso. That's why I brought him up earlier. Rusnak Super Rare and Gustavo Boo. Nailed the captain because you couldn't captain a Super Rare, so I actually captained the right guy. But anyway, so I won that Rusnak, or excuse me, I won that Vela card, and the Vela card also allowed me to win some things. Although looking back, wow, $1.56. Looking back, I only won 3 cards with it, including this Romero, which I still have. But did I write this down? I thought I did, but anyway, I sold this David Calabria that I won for $341, 0.125. And then this Erkan Kara for $559, 0.274. And people wonder why this game was getting so out of touch with most people. But anyway, so like that's another like, what was that, $500 in rewards? Plus I had this podium with Rusnak. I really had no idea that Tyler Miller was on that deal. So just like the accounting it just gets a little tough to go through all of that. And I'm kind of working on that. Anyway, moving ahead. Can we do a poll here to see who's happy next week is normal deadline and no swaps? I mean, everyone. Anyway, oh no, Harry Trades didn't consent to the use of Collins. It would be funny if they did trades. Lairdinho said, it's all about the friends we've made along the way and how much it has cost us to make them. Halligan said, because I barely won any thresholds, but it's the majority of my yield. Okay, that's fair. Goose said, "You just hit the nail on the head with the cards sold for. The only profit that matters is realized profit." So it's funny because we had a lot of discussions internally about when we show, like, when you won a reward, does it matter how much it was worth when you won it or how much it's worth now? And my argument was always like, neither of those things matter. It only matters when you sell it. Like, not that it's worthless, but in an exercise where we're trying to determine yield, like it's not anything until you sell it. And if you don't sell it, that's fine. You can yield from that card also, but you're not necessarily getting like a direct yield from that sale. Balance said, "A while ago, I firmly decided to not deposit any additional money and just see how far I can go with what I already have. So I've basically turned it into a recent resource management game." So I hate to break it to you. This has been a resource management game from day one. It's always that. It's the people who are able to yield more from less who are the ones who are successful in that. Agent Cooper said, "Selling Rusnak right now is also probably the best time to sell, too. Yes, he could smash again this season, but selling into demand is way better than trying to sell at the end of the MLS season." To be honest, I didn't even want to sell it. Um, like, I listed all of my super rares and actually did not list, or all of my MLS super rares, and I did not list Rusnak. And somebody came to me, and that card was like, it was a 1 of 10. It had 44,000 XP, I believe. So like it's after the transfer, it got to level 20 with a Sorare bump. Like, it's a great card. I'll miss it. Mike said, also the time span to yield on cards bought before 2.0 is much different to now. As Cosmo said previously, we outlaid lump sum capital to yield long term. Yeah, that's fair. Yep. In finance terms, we were long term investors and now we're day traders. I wouldn't say we're day traders, but the longevity of returns. Actually, I don't know. I don't know. There are still people who win cards and sell them and yield that way. It's harder, sure, but I don't know. Anyway, so the bubble thing, that's what we were talking about today. Only took us 25 minutes, 24 minutes. So I noticed it go. So I usually do my lineups at least a week ahead of time, if not 2 weeks. Usually just my in-season lineups, and I did my in-season lineups for champ, challenger, and contender in rare. And last night I was like, "Oh, let me like check my lineups," and realize like I had done no classic lineups and no for any scarcity, and I wasn't feeling great last night from this cold that I have. And so I went to sleep. I woke up this morning not feeling particularly better, but I was like, all right, I have some time. I think I started at about 3 hours before the deadline. I like, logged into SorareData to start doing my lineups. And not that I like had forgotten that Korea and Japan were back, but and this obviously the Danish Superliga is back, but like that I knew. But I just had so many more cards available. And I learned fun things like Akitu Fukumori is back in J1, and I got to use Ki Sung Yang again, and I was just like, "Oh, these are fun cards." And I actually I had a lineup going this morning, and I have no idea how it finished because all of the Sorare leaderboards seem to die this morning. But hold on, let me see. Um, So this lineup right here. Nope, not that one. Wait, what? Where did that lineup go? I thought I had a. Oh, here it is. This all-star team. This lineup was in third when they deleted everything because Usami. I don't even know what he did. I guess he didn't have that great of a good AA game. 5-2. Man, don't tell me he had like a big chance created. No, he didn't. All right. Anyway, this was in third, and I was like, "Oh, that's cool. I'm winning a star or excuse me, a star, a tier 3 super rare. And yeah, apparently I'm only getting a box, which like whatever, GG's. But I so going through the lineup builder and I was like, oh wow, there's a lot going on. Not sure KSY will play. Oh, great. Great. That's just wonderful. So yeah, I was just like overwhelmed and I was like, wow, I have all these cards. And some of them were in like really good matchups. The worst was that Midtjylland have a fantastic matchup and we don't even know who the goalie's going to be. So, but just like going through, I'm like, oh, Cecinia's back. And I was like, I have some really good cards. And I was like, man, I'm going to do really well. Sorcel, just messing with you. Please don't ever mess around about Key. Like joke about anybody else, but like Key is so believable that like I just that like it looked like I just had that like roll off my shoulder, but man, that hurt like right here, like my whole chest on the left side felt pain. Anyway, but so I was like, oh, I'm just gonna smash this week because I have all my cards back, and I was like, wait a minute, like everyone has their cards back. I'm not the only one who gets all these guys back, and I was realizing that I was looking at my lineups and not that there were any that were that great that I was like, oh man, this is gonna smash, but I did say that. It really was that. And I had to like remind myself, like, it doesn't really matter how good my lineups score on their own. I got to beat everybody else. And that's when I was like, I need a little bit of a reality check while I was doing it. Goose said, do you ever have a card at such a great price and you just know it's the perfect time to sell, but you just don't pull the trigger? I currently have that feeling with Santi Jimenez and it's so rough all the time. That's what the whole game is about, that. The best Sorare players are those who are able to sell when a player is hot. It's as simple as that, because that's one of the hardest things to do in the game, is because you're just like, oh, maybe it'll just go on forever. And I want that card in my lineups, but inevitably, it's probably not going to happen. Balance said, to me, it now feels even more like resource management because I can't just splurge on smashers at any time. Yeah, I mean, but like that's the reality for most people in this game. Like I can't just go out and buy whatever card I want. And so it it's a total resource management game. And actually, that came up earlier this week. So I tweeted this, but somebody had offered me a trade of my Carlos Heel, which I won with one of the most absurd lineups you'll ever see on Sorare. I'm gonna pull this up, and I want to see if I can. I think I remember the game week correctly. I think it was game week 184. Let's see. Game week 184. I won All-Star Rare. Oh, I broke it. They're like, don't look back. That's just that sign. But we're looking back over here. 184. It wasn't 184. 186. 186. Misaki Higashiguchi, Fabrizio Angeleri, Jonathan Mensah, Emmanuel Reynoso, and Captain Casper Shabilko. That's not the Shabilko that I won. That's a different one. But anyway, I won first place in All-Star Division 4, which was rare. They claim $1,800 in cash. I don't remember how much it was in ETH because that's all it was. And I won a Carlos Heel. And I won Carlos Heel, which was a gigantic disappointment for me because on that day, Zora, who did not work for Sorare at the time, went on Twitter and congratulated me for winning Neymar. And Neymar was just like awesome back then. And I would have loved Neymar, but I won Carlos Heel instead. And I don't remember why I brought that up. All of that. Why did I bring up that Carlos Heel card? What the hell? That's so funny. I literally like can't. The tweet for the trade. Yes, thank you, ZM Star. Way to be. God. So somebody offered me $5. I think it was $5 to trade my Carlos Heel, which I've owned since game week, whatever I won at 186, for a Carlos Heel original season, meaning original Sorare season, jersey mint. And people who are familiar with me, might say we all saw the moment Laird went senile. What's funny is that that happens to me all the time. No, it doesn't happen all the time, but it happens enough, and it just doesn't happen here. So yeah, maybe we did just notice a moment. Anyway, so it was the original season, and I wonder if that card's on the market. Let's see, 22, because there it is. So it's this card right here. Nice card. Back when he wore number 22, big head, diamond. That I don't know if it's a diamond, triangle at least. Cool card. I really liked it, and it was on the market previously, like last week. And I went to decide. I was like, oh, do I want to buy this card? And I decided it wasn't worth I had the money to do it, and I was like, do I really need to spend the resources on it? And let's see what it ended up selling for. $60. I think it was like over 70 at the time. And I was like, I really just don't need, I don't think I can take advantage of 2 Carlos Heel rares. So I didn't buy the Jersey Mint, and then someone else bought it. This person right here, Mufasone or Mufasone, and they offered me the $5 and this card for mine, but mine is a level 20. It's got 40 something thousand XP on it, or level 10 now, excuse me, 10% XP. And even it would still be 10% XP even after the trade. And this one is literally level 5 and would get even lower after the transfer. And it's like, I have the resources to buy it, but it didn't feel like the appropriate use of my resources. And so that's the resource management part of the game completely. Jorge, can you help me? My SorareData is bugged. I can't see my Sorare results and I can't check my gallery. What can I do? I would log out and log back in. You have too many thought trains going on. I did. And my head's been a bit foggy for the last 6 days or so. Anyway, so yeah, I mean, Sorare at its core is a resource management game, completely. It reminds me, I used to do daily fantasy soccer content with a guy named Jordan Cooper, and Jordan still does DFS content, but he always said that DFS was like poker. Everyone's like, poker is described as a card game with money, but it's actually a money game played with cards. And DFS was kind of the same way. It was a money game where you play with, athletes. And Sorare is the same way. Really at its core, Sorare is a money game that's played with JPEGs, with football cards or basketball cards or baseball cards. And the idea is that we use the money to buy these game pieces, and we try to yield as much as we can from those game pieces. And we kind of all understand that the more you spend, the more likely you are to win. But that doesn't mean you're more likely to win more than you spent. There are plenty of people who spent a lot of money on this platform. And I don't even mean years ago. I mean, fairly recently, who may have spent, $500, $1,000, $5,000 and really haven't returned anything. And so Mike said that it's gambling. I consider gambling completely different. Gambling, I wouldn't even call gambling a money game. Gambling is literally just that. It's gambling. It's lottery. But it's the idea is different. Yeah. Balin said, I've always struggled to sell players when they're hot. Due to this, when I can, I buy duplicates, one for SO5 and one to hopefully flip. That feels like, it almost feels like an unnecessary risk buying a second one. If something happens, then you're down twice, which is kind of a bummer. ZM Star, looks like you had a great time at the Knicks game. It was a great time. Thank you again to Sorare for getting me those tickets. I was able to take my son to celebrate his birthday. His birthday was actually on the day of the game, and surprised him when he got home from school. And so And it was great. It was really, really fun. Mike said, but the two examples you compared to both fall under gambling regs. No, I have no idea what the gambling regulations are in every country in the world. I don't like that's one thing I've generally not um football betting from Twitch said sports gambling isn't a lottery. It's similar to what you described. I didn't mean it was a lottery in the sense of like you have no skill. Um, but I don't. I generally maybe that's just the way that I that I look at the two things. But yeah, I mean, I'm not a lawmaker nor a lawyer. That game was fire. That game was so frustrating as a Knicks fan though because like the Knicks should have absolutely blown them out, and instead they won by one in overtime. But great game, great game. I actually got something from that game that I meant to bring up here, but maybe it'll just be part of the Lairdinho set redesign one day. Rob said, I've always said Sorare is more similar to stocks than gambling. Yeah, two things that are pretty heavily regulated. But I mean, again, it's that's like a whole conversation um, that I'm happy for people to have, but I just have no interest in the conversation. Like, there's nothing that I can do or say to make that situation clear on either side. And so I just don't concern myself with it, if that's like a fair thing to say. Like, why does it like what we think doesn't matter at all? It's literally like what the people who would regulate it think. And we'll find out in June, apparently, in the UK. But I mean, whatever. But saying that like money isn't important in this game is we're obviously just kidding ourselves here. I mean, we're playing for money for the most part. They would Sorare don't even want us to. Well, I don't want to say they don't want us, but the way the game works now, it's like we're more often playing for money than anything else. All that matters is having fun. Let them worry about the legal side," said Rob. Yeah. Oh, yeah, all that matters if we're having fun. Yeah. I mean, I hope everybody's having fun. I feel bad. JT Chell said a Knicks fan also. Yeah, I know you are because you stole my Jalen Brunson um, playoff or All Star card. Are those all sold? I meant to buy one. I'm gonna be so disappointed. I know this is usually a football show, but humor me. Card edition All Star. Oh, there are 55 of them. Oh, because he had some last year. Oh, there are on sale. I might have to buy one of these. Oh, that's super sweet. Anyway. See, I'm starting not having fun with these MLS auction prices right now. That MLS prices are insanity. Absolute insanity. I genuinely I'm struggling with it because um yeah, I'm very curious to see where people think they're going to win enough to make it back at these prices. And so uh I mean, it is what it is. Like I'm not here to tell anyone that whatever they're spending on the cards is the wrong price, but I would struggle with some of the prices I've seen. I'm like, I would struggle to see how I make that up over the course of the season. Now, maybe I just haven't done enough of the maths to to justify my line of thinking because I really haven't looked that much. I did that kind of exercise early on that I showed on stream on Wednesday. Like I was tracking it like this for those of you who weren't in on that show. These are just like some general prices of MLS early cards. And it was just like, man, I'm just not in a position to spend $116 on a Luca Oriano or 140 on a Jordi Alba to think that I can get that back playing limited competitions all summer. But I mean, maybe I'm wrong. Um, yeah, I don't know. Balance and maybe I'm no good at solar, but I really enjoy it. I view it as a recreational expense in the same vein as buying golf clubs, but of course the potential for making money is what's fun. Sure. Yeah. And I think that's a great way to play for sure. Like there are a lot I used to work at RotoWire and I'm actually wearing a RotoWire fleece right or yeah, pullover right now. But there were a lot of people who were like in our Discord who played daily fantasy soccer every day. And I call it soccer here because that's what DraftKings calls it. But they played every day and openly admit that like they're not that good at it. Like they don't win and maybe they're down for the most part, but they really enjoy like the kind of the puzzle aspect of DFS. That was always what I really enjoyed about DFS is that um and so for those of you who are unfamiliar with DraftKings and how it works, you basically it's like a salary cap format. And you just make lineups based on the salary cap of players and the puzzle of getting like the right players with that you want with the ones that might not be as good but are cheaper. Like it's fun. That part is fun. I just didn't love the grind itself. And the money was never like I was never good enough to like win a lot. I was like just good enough to keep playing. And just that wasn't it just wasn't like rewarding enough for me from like an entertainment standpoint. Um, which is why I don't play anymore. But the the fun of and so that game kind of like is able to be maintained because there are people who are willing to do it. Like they're willing to basically not win because they like it. And I think we're going to see that more and more in So Rare of people who are playing and maybe they're not that good at the game, but they love like being able to buy like digital player cards of their favorite team and play it. And like that's just enough fun for them. And that's great. That actually reminds me of another topic I was going to do on a show, and I didn't want to do a whole show on it because it feels like not negative or it felt a little negative. That's why I didn't do it. Let me catch up on the chat and then we'll get into it because I do want to bring it up. Sean said, I bit the bullet and bought 3 below average goalies in the $30 to $40 range. At least I'll have lineups now, but not the smashers I was envisioning. I mean, they're not smasher goalies anyway. Diogo said, I think there are some team collections for MLS that are good value, but some are just so overpriced, like Nashville. I didn't look at the Nashville prices because I don't think I'm not a Handy Mukhtar guy. And so I wouldn't look at any of those, but I don't know. Maybe they're expensive. Like or actually I have Handy Mukhtar on this list because I wanted to compare. Like, yeah, I'm never spending $70 to $90 on a Handy Mukhtar limited card. Like, get out of here with that. Escape Press says DFS is like a puzzle piece where the goalkeeper piece is like a puzzle where the goalkeeper piece always gets lost and you never complete the puzzle. Yeah, that's a good one. But this, and I don't want to say this is like the negative conversation I want to get into, but I do want to bring this up that, and this kind of came up during this week's like late swap specialist thing, and it made it obviously there was enough negative feedback about it that they removed late swap from next week's competitions. I don't know if they've removed the specialist thing. I think it was a little I think they realized very quickly that the setup of specialist and late swap or rolling lock, whatever we were calling it, didn't work. That doesn't work. And so it was almost like they had to throw out the whole thing because it's like most of the criticism that they got about late swap was not really about late swap. It was like late swap combined with specialist, where it's like, oh, my guy's not starting. Let me put this other guy in. And it's like, oh man, he's also an L15 of 60, so I can't play him. And it ended up being a poor experience, poor enough that they decided not to do it. However, that poor experience gave people kind of the opportunity to say, like, what do I like about this game and what do I not like about it? And one of the kind of the consistent feedback that I saw, which I think is really important, and I think I'm sure that Sorare have thought of this and discuss it. However, in case they haven't, one of the pieces of feedback that I saw from multiple places, from people who do not speak to each other, like different spots where I talk to people, including people in this live chat, but then there's some on Discord, some on Twitter, wherever, that if they had late swap, like that's basically what the conversation was. Like if this was the rule for everything, then I wouldn't be buying any like J League and K League players because they play in the like overnight for me, and I don't want to wake up and make sure players are starting. And it's like, okay, so now that's an entire region of the world I'm not going to buy cards from. But I do have to play contender, or if I want to play contender, then I have to be awake, for the right times, and I have to be available at the right times. And so the kind of overarching kind of agreement from people was like, all right, I have to just like really trim my gallery down and only focus on like specific leagues or teams. And I don't know if that's exactly what Sorare want people to do. Like we obviously have the ability to like just play the Premier League if you want. And there are plenty of people who just want to do that. And so late swap tends to be a little easier that way because you only have to worry about one league. And if you have a collection, then you only have to worry about one team. And if you only have to worry about one team, then it doesn't really matter what is going on separately. And the thing that was kind of the follow-up to that was I'd be really disappointed if they did that, because one of the things I love about Sorare is being able to scout and watch teams from all over the world and not really worry about whether I have to be awake or available every time they have a game. And one of the legitimate joys of Sorare is kind of like, I don't even want to call it discovering, but basically like discovering that that player that like you just didn't know about, and somebody was like, "Hey, have you ever heard of whoever?" And you're like, "No," and they're like, "Oh, they take set pieces for this team in Japan." And you're like, "Oh, I never really follow the J League," and then you look it up and you're like, "Wow, this guy's really good." And one of the ones that, and this is like people who are old on the platform would know this name, but it came up literally today, and I sent a screenshot to Gator Guy because he was like a guy that both of us, meaning this player, was a guy that both of us owned. I guess he still has a limited also. But I'm going through my contender cards for my lineup today, and I look down and I'm like, oh my God, Akitu Fukumori is back in the J League. And Fukumori played for Sapporo, I believe, years ago, and I believe he was a left-sided center back who took set pieces. And he was the perfect like threshold player, like all-star rare 250 threshold player. And the absurdity of the game is that I bought this guy once for $520 apparently, which is just wild. But I've won like a ton with it. But these are all like, 25, $50, $100, basically 0.02 and 0.01 and 0.02 ETH. But in a late swap world, I would never buy this card. I wouldn't even consider it. And I wouldn't consider Cecina. I wouldn't consider Takashi Usami, because if I have to worry about whether they're going to play and check in the middle of the night, I just wouldn't even bother myself. And it's such a fun part of Sorare for so many people. And it's actually something that I brought up a while ago and kind of reiterated recently, that the amount of football knowledge you gain just by playing Sorare is absurd. Like, if you are here watching a live stream of some random American talking about a fantasy football game that is played with digital player cards, I can guarantee you know more about football than most people on earth. The fact that we can name players like that, like we know where that Morioka went back to Japan and that he was in Belgium before that. And when guys get moves from these, what most people in the world consider these obscure leagues, and they go to the Prem, and you're like, no, I know exactly who Julian Fernandez is. I know who Enzo Fernandez is. I know Cody Gakpo because I've been playing Sorare for 3 years, and the guy is a beast. And people are like, "Who? How do you know?" You're like, "'Cause I play Sorare." And is that gonna be like a way for them to sell the game? No. No. Nobody's gonna you're not gonna pitch Sorare to somebody and be like, "Hey, do you wanna learn about the most obscure footballers on earth?" And people are gonna be like, "Not really." But if you play Sorare, like, you're gonna know who Martin Baturina is, and you're gonna know that Rakitic is back in Croatia. And just, like, the random stuff like that is such an important part of the game and such an important part of the experience. And the way that the game is moving, particularly, like, the implementation of late swap will literally force people to condense down to galleries where it's like, I only wanna focus on the one thing that I know, like, forget about all the side benefits. And it's just kind of it's a little disappointing that it feels like we're going that way. Now, I don't know if the late swap thing is working for them or not. I really don't. But or if subs might be the right solution. Like, I don't know. I'm not sure they know because I don't it's not like this is something that can be known. It's just like they're gonna have to find like the best solution that works for as many like people as possible. It's not an envious position at all. But they are obviously trying to do something to address DNPs, but I just hope that the solution doesn't cause us to, like, lose out on some of the things that we love about this game. That's all. Sorry, I ignored the chat for a little bit. Sorry, let me catch up. Rob C said, "This is what I said. Imagine late locks for every comp, and you have Western Conference MLS, Eastern Conference MLS, contender, champ, challenger in Asia. You'd never be able to sleep." So yeah, like it would be really, really difficult to do. Um, my God, Sam Larson scored a goal. Unbelievable. Yeah, it's hard. It's hard. And Limpy said, could it be that Sorare tested the rolling locks on purpose combined with specialist rules to steer the outcome? I don't think so, to be honest. I don't think so. Balin said, is it Balin or Balin? I really hope they don't start regularly doing late swaps. It creates an unfair advantage for some that isn't based on skill. I agree with that part. Although I guess you're basically just saying, well, the skill is in determining what the best times for you are to interrupt whatever you're doing that you would prefer to be doing and instead look at your lineups. Thomas said, I always find it kind of fun to wake up and check the J League, K League scores, sort of like a mini Christmas. And if your team underperforms, it's like getting a pair of socks as presents. I agree. Like the waking up to the J League stuff is fun. The only thing that's not fun is the notification that like your goalie has a clean sheet and then or like it's the 60-minute like they have a clean sheet and then not seeing the final one. That one's not as fun. Speaking of Sam Larson, who just scored a goal, I have his super rare played in Challenger Classic D2 Limited. Rob said, my friends always ask how I know so much about the Austrian Bundesliga. Yeah. Like that. Yeah. It's fun. And it's fun to know that stuff, like just for any reason. Why can't late swap be its own comp? I mean, it could be, I guess. Rob said, playing Sorare is also really helpful for online FM saves with friends and signing all the cheap ballers they've never heard of. Yeah. Jow said 6 months ago, I didn't know anyone in the MLS. Yeah, it's like it's a wonderful way to like expand your football knowledge. Nanzo said, I found that the late swap experiment was less about avoiding DNPs and more about shifting good players from lineups with mediocre scores to better lineups. So, Nanzo, that's the point. Like, that's the actual point of late swap. Or that's the actual, uh, it's not a loophole, but like, that's how you should use late swap. Like, late swap is a mechanism that allows you to make the best lineups possible hidden as a DMP avoider. You're exactly right about that. Like this comment here, and I'll read it again. I found that the late swap experiment was less about avoiding DNPs and more about shifting good players from lineups with mediocre scores to better lineups. This is why Nanzo is so much better at this game than a lot of other people, because he recognized that right away, as opposed to other people who were like, oh, I have a DNP. Let me just swap out and put someone else in. Great. No DNP. Now I'm only 79 points away from winning a box instead of 179 or whatever it is. Major FT said, I think late swap was fun, but you shouldn't have to be penalized. Just don't play that competition. It's really like, I think it's unfair when universal. It's just the Sorare will determine how much, like how important late swap is based on the rewards. Like if the rewards are better in competitions with late swap, and that's something that Sean, PSU fans too, always argued. He was like, you don't have to have late swap in all competitions, but like have a late swap only competition. But that's where the best prizes are, because those are the people who are the most dedicated to the platform. And I think that's total bullshit. It's just, it benefits the people who can sit around and be on a computer all day. That doesn't mean they're any better than other people. Limpy said, do you think new players will also be interested in playing leagues from other continents, or is this more for old Sorare players? So Limpy, I think the Balin, okay, thank you. I think like Sorare has always been a kind of like play what you know. Like you come in and you buy the cards that you know, and then you expand out to the other continents, if you will. Like the Prem wasn't on Sorare when I joined. So the closest league that they had that I knew about was MLS. And they didn't even have MLS. They had the MLS Players Association, which is why they had the big head cards, because they couldn't show the jerseys. And it's just part of like your Sorare evolution that you expand out. And I think ultimately the game is set up still to do that. Like if you only like the Premier League, you play FPL and you're like, oh, here's a Premier League, another fantasy Premier League game that I can buy these player cards and compete for cash every week. And then, you get your 3 lineups. Maybe you get 3 in season 3 classic, in limited. You don't want to go up to rare. And you're like, I kind of like the Bundesliga could be fun. And then you go to the Bundesliga and we just expand from there. Or if you just like, oh, I actually, I live in Argentina. I like the Prem, but I live in Argentina. Oh, I'll play contender with Racing cards or something like that. It's like, I think it still allows for it, but the problem is the late swap mechanism kills you to expand in places where maybe you actually do want to play. Like if you play the Bundesliga only, and then you're like, MLS is really fun, I would play that, but I don't want to be up at 3:00 in the morning to find out if Carlos Hilo is going to play or not. Diogo said DNPs are pain, but I think all the solutions that people have come on to solve it are not great, so it's better not to move it. I think subs are better than not having it. Lairdinho, it is amazing knowing so many players who can cause us pain on a twice weekly basis. Yeah. Dan said, I enjoyed the lock, which was 30 minutes before the final UCL league matches. It was an intense 30 minutes and only worked for the one-off, but was fun. I actually hated it myself, but like it was maybe it wasn't. I don't even have that many UCL cards anyway. So, I mean, it was fine, but like that's such a one-off situation that using that as any sort of indication of how late swap would work in the game normally, it was tough. Rob C said the specialist stuff was the hardest part this week. Yeah. Like I had the number of times where I either had a third guy from the same team or a third guy with a 60 L15, and I couldn't put them in a lineup. And I was just like, come on. Kampersk, Sorare. And what if you could add a backup player if there's a DNP, Sorare swap themselves? I think that's the safest thing. Like I generally think, and I only say this because I happen to come up with it. And to be honest, I don't even know if I came up with this and somebody else did, but I'm taking credit for it. that you can swap a player in from the same collection. That's it. And actually the other one that I really liked was I forget who tweeted it, but like the sub had to be an L15 of 45 or below. And I would even go as far as to say, well, maybe not same collection and that rule, but something like that. Diogo said the amount of random players and random teams I know from MLS and the Austrian league or Danish league is so crazy, and all because of Sorare. Yeah. And we wear that with like a badge of pride. Payne said the SorareData comps were perfect. The old SorareData comps. Yeah, those were 11 aside though. Like people kind of forget that we had an SO5 game, and like if your player DNP'd, you were out. Like that was it. What if you were allowed to sub in players from the same team already in your collection before the lock? I just sub in players. I just don't want anything. I don't want to have to, like, my biggest pushback of people who are like pro late swap when they say like it doesn't take that much time, which is completely wrong because of what Nanzo brought up before, that if you think it's just a replacing one player with another like that, you're right, that takes no time. But like late swap doesn't work that way. If you can take from other lineups or whatever it is, it's not like, for me, it really has nothing to do with the amount of time. It's the specific time that it happens is when I don't want to be doing that. Like if I'm in the middle of coaching my daughter's youth basketball game, I don't want to have to take my phone out and make a sub. And they're like, oh, just don't do it. And it's like, well, yeah, now I'm playing the game at a massive disadvantage. Campers, if you go to beta.soradata.com, if you're a star member, at least there's the whole site is in dark mode. Like this. Hold on. Like everything is in dark mode here. I think you can use light mode. I just don't. Rob, was this what today's topic was about, or have we yet to get there? Not sure if it got sidetracked or if this was the bubble. No, the bubble was the simple, like all of my cards were back and I was like, oh, I'm going to smash everyone. And I kind of forgot that if I got all my cards back, everyone else got all their cards back too. And so if you just like play with blinders where you're like, oh, I don't have to, like, I'm just going to win. And it's like, well, you have to worry about everyone. We're not playing thresholds here. We got to beat everybody else. And the way that we're doing the game is, I mean, it'll even go back to that resource management thing. If you're like going out and buying all of these MLS cards for the max price, like you're going to have less resources to adjust later on, and other people are going to be able to take advantage of it. And you have to remember that the game is about beating everybody else. It's scoring more points than everyone else. It's not scoring the most points possible. Sora Burrow said it takes away the level playing field, meaning late swaps takes that away. And I agree. Yeah, no, I agree with that. That's my that's my biggest pushback on it. Nanzo said just have subs like an FPL. Anything becomes overly difficult. Yeah, like the reason I like the collection thing is like, oh, the goalie's out, and it's like, okay, well, you have a goalie if you have like enough of a collection, like you have the backup. And ironically, I say that as somebody who was like anti handcuffing goalies for my entire time on Sorare, but like I would do it if I knew that I could get like a goalie sub from my collection. Because that the reason I go with the collection idea is because Sorare like to talk about how their scoring matrix is like the most accurate indicator of actual success on the field. Like if you watched a football match, their idea is if you were like really impressed by someone on the field, like they probably scored more than everybody else. So it's like their scoring matrix is an accurate representation of reality. And if something happens with a manager, like a real life manager, like the goalie pulls up lame in warm up, he can't pull any goalie in the world back. He's got to take somebody from his team. And so if we just did the same thing, if you want to keep some sort of like connection to reality, like that's it. That's what I was saying. It should be in your collection before time lock, so it can be subbed in. Like if a goalie gets hurt. Oh, the collect, they have to be in your collection beforehand. Yeah. Yes. John said, with the rolling lock discussion, would it make sense for it to apply to single league competitions as they've done it to NBA? I mean, they could, but you're still ultimately like the games don't like in the NBA, and the NBA has late swap on a daily basis, right? So it's just their daily game. So you have from 7:30 p.m. usually 7:30 p.m. on the East Coast until like 11 p.m. on the East Coast. It's like a 3.5, 4 hour window where it's like, yeah, you have to like watch lineups, and which is the reason I never played DFS NBA, because it's like I don't want to be locked to my computer. Speaking of locks, I didn't want to be locked to my computer for 4 hours to make sure that I got all the lineups in. But a single league competition on Sorare still lasts days. Like if the Bundesliga, like I assume the Bundesliga plays right now, right? Or soon. Yeah. So the first match for the Bundesliga is in 90 minutes. And then so for me, it's 2:30 p.m. today, Friday. And then they have a bunch of games at 9:30 in the morning tomorrow. But then there's also one at 11:30, and there's one on Sunday, or excuse me, 2:30 p.m. today, 9:30 a.m. Saturday, 12:30 p.m. Saturday, 9:30 Sunday, 11:30 Sunday, 1:30 Sunday. No Monday. Sometimes they do Mondays. Like the Prem will do Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. That's very, very different. Nanzo said there's no collection requirement for setting lineups. Makes little sense to add it when introducing subs. Totally disagree that it makes little sense. Mike said you may not have the backup. Look at Ulsan, few minutes of the backup. So in that case, couldn't swap from the same collection, but have others. Well, again, I don't think there's any reasonable solution that eliminates all DNPs. Like there isn't. Like I said, Quinny calls his gallery his club, so we can't swap from any other players from our club in. It's a good point. I don't know. Limpy is hoping that they do test out with subs. I agree. Jess, another funny thing about the game is the early knowledge of players. Many friends were surprised by a player from Uzbekistan going to Man City. I responded, who? Kuzanov from Lons? He's great. Yeah, exactly. It's just like that. I will say that totally backfired on me once, though. I have a friend who's a New York City FC season ticket holder. And after they signed Thiago Martins from, where was he? Yokohama or Frontale? I forget. Hold on. Yokohama Marinos. Yeah. And he was like really good there. And I was like, no, he's legit. He's like very good. And he's been generally awful for New York City. And so that was one where like didn't quite work. Agent Cooper, everyone who owns Cecina is now thinking, I'm back, baby. I own 4 Cecinas. 3, excuse me. But how many Cecinas are there? There are 398 rares. Can you imagine Lamine Yamal in a decade's time? There's going to be over 10,000 Yamal limiteds in play. I mean, let's try to be like, there is no reason for us to worry about what Sorare is going to look like in 10 years. Like, let's stop that. There's no reason for it. Surface said, I'm selling all my limiteds now, not worth my time anymore. And Nanzo's doing the same. That's fair. There was a time where I did, like 2 years ago, I did that. And then I decided to jump back in. Keith, what's up? Yeah, no, I think I would think that it's funny because I would almost argue that they were never worth it for Surface and Nanzo. For those of you wondering, Surface and Nanzo are, I would assume they would consider themselves OG users. Surface certainly. Nanzo, when did Nanzo join? I don't know if Nanzo was here before me or not. February 25th, 2021. Oh, we're coming up on an anniversary there, Nanzo. Um, I'm surprised that Limiteds was ever worth your time. Genuinely. Are you guys selling them to traders? Surely you're not going like one by one. As I see Nanzo crafted a Erling Haaland limited recently. Is that today? It's a nice one. So Surface, you're currently sitting on 541 limiteds, although was that just football? Surface has 367 limiteds for football. And Nanzo has 510. Surface said I'm selling one by one. I mean, that's gonna, like, if you're talking about worth your time, selling 380 limiteds one by one surely cannot be worth your time. He said they were worth my time when in general the game was just higher stakes and lucrative. Nanzo's also selling them one at a time. I genuinely don't understand how it's not worth your time to play, but it's worth your time to sell them one by one. Nanzo said, I created a bot to list them. Whew, okay. I mean, good luck. Selling one by one is a nice way to get some closure, says Surface. I mean, real. I feel like that's just going to take forever. And I think what ultimately is going to be the problem is the two of you probably have so many that will not sell, literally. And then you're going to have to find a trader to take them, and they're not going to want them either. Like, I think that's one of the big benefits of a trader is they're generally willing to take your junk because they come with the good stuff. Mike said, if they're having fun, let them be. Is it like, who said they're having fun? They're doing this because they're not having fun. But maybe it is fun. You guys do you. Server said, selling one by one is not that bad. About 15 seconds per card. The traders come to you when you have 10 plus cards listed at a minimum. Yeah. Again, I just think you're going to be left with a lot that you don't want. Laird, you're treading on freedoms right now. I'm just insulting them. I'm not treading on anything. That's all. Keith said, selling one by one is a great way to torture yourself. Spoken from the guy selling rares one by one. Thomas said, as long as you're playing, I will remember you in the background. I see nothing wrong with going one by one. Agent Cooper said, speaking of limiteds, if we think the new MLS in-season prices are wild, do you remember when limiteds were first introduced? Wow, wow, wow. It was the Wild West back then. Yeah, I remember like being so happy to spend like $5,000 or $500 on like a Hulk. What did I buy Neymar for? I did this on stream the other day. $744 I spent on Neymar Rare. Excuse me, Neymar Limited. $744 Neymar Limited, and I recently bought a Neymar jersey mint for $117. Speaking of which, I wonder if that other jersey mint sold. Didn't. Caveman not coming down from his price. Limpy said, next to listing them all, do you also have to reply to all offers? It's a good question. I don't know. It seems like a lot to me. Like, I guess the way I look at it is I think that takes a long time. And so surface, so 15 seconds per card, and then are you then selling, like if a trader comes to you and says they want to buy a bunch, or do you sell them in bulk? Like, aren't we just selling them then? I don't know. I mean, I'm looking at your transactions. It looks like you've sold quite a few. But you're like selling all the ones that people want. So what happens ultimately when you get, is this, take these out. Like what happens to all these? Hataro Yamaguchi. I'll even take this out. Like what happens when none of these sell? Luka Jovic, Brian Lozano. That's a rare actually. Donovan Pines. 54 cents, which is the minimum that you can sell. And then you just end up with them anyway. But maybe you're just happy to just keep them at that point. Server says, so I did this with my NBA collection and it worked fine. Everyone sold. I think that's apples to oranges. There's so many fewer players, and because of collections, it's easier to, like, the collections are a lot smaller. Like I think there are enough NBA players that hold on, sorry. Server said the ones at 56 cents, you get traders coming in offering you 15 cents each for like 15 at a time, and I accept them then. Okay. Nanzo said running a script is low effort. Besides occasionally adjusting the asking price, I'll worry about the leftovers when I get there. Okay, that's fair. That's fair. I mean, this is like two good players, two good Sorare players who play limited and now are not going to. So that's good news for everybody else who competes there. Server said, I don't care if I end up with 150 50-cent cards. Okay, that's fair. Jorge said, I've been trying to sell my entire NBA gallery for a month and nobody will take it. And I have around 200 cards and 10 All-Stars. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Halligan said, I sold all my non-collection limiteds and transitioned to a collection-only strategy. Had to give away 30-plus cards just to clean house. Absolutely worth it. I don't even know what my limiteds look like now. I assume they're mostly in season. Let's see. Neymar, Messi, and some in seasons. And then my Midtjylland collection. Yeah, but I guess we should go to the bottom. What are the cards I'm going to give away? Let's see. See, a lot of these are just collections stuff. This is a Jonas Hoffman jersey mint, though. That's priceless. So I actually don't really have that many like extra limiteds at this point. But I also don't, like, this doesn't bother me. Tony Watt jersey mint. I think I spent like $30 on this card. Yeah, $34. What a world. Yeah, I don't know. I think I would just sell them in bulk to somebody. ZM Star said, you said that's fair, but your voice and body language say I don't approve. I mean, I don't have to approve. Like, they certainly, those two don't give a shit. But like, I understand it, but that doesn't mean I would do the same thing. Nanzo said, I have some 1 of 1,000s, tier zeros, and legends I'll keep a hold of, so expect me to snipe the occasional limited reward. Okay, that's fair. Galen said, the bot won't accept my offer, so I'm like, quote, how about I add this retired player you've never heard of? Yeah, I mean, yeah, I don't know. I haven't really been selling many cards lately. Like, I haven't been looking to sell. I sell most of my rewards. Although I haven't even done that recently. Maybe I should. Maybe I should. Maybe I should. Maybe that'll be the next SorareData show. Let's see which cards Laird can sell and get out of. And then we'll do like a yard sale, boot sale. Is that what you guys call it? Boot sale? Something? Anyone? Anyone? I don't know. But that's all I got. That's all I got today. Happy Valentine's Day to everybody. Happy Friday. Thank you to everybody for coming. If you could please like, subscribe, all that good stuff. Shout out to Quinny. Car boot. All right. Thank you, Mike. Yeah, maybe we'll do that next week. Maybe we'll try to sell a bunch of cards. You guys can help me sell them. You can buy them. But inevitably, I'll probably just give them away. But yeah, thanks to everyone for coming. If you could please like the video, share it with anybody that you think might enjoy it. But really appreciate everybody. Mike Callahan. I don't, Mike, have you chatted before? I was going to say, like, I don't recognize that name, but maybe it's because maybe I know somebody named Mike Callahan. I don't know. Liam, what's up? See, I love to see new people coming in. Although Liam's not new, but at least coming into chat today. But anyway, thank you to everybody, particularly all of those who are participating in the live chat and all the lurkers out there. Love you too. Don't worry about it. But yeah, enjoy your weekend. I will be back on Monday. And hopefully, we all get some podiums this week. But appreciate these, this time where you don't have to check all the lineups for DNPs and you have to make any changes. Just enjoy your weekend and remember to go outside.